Welcome to Speak from the Body, a podcast that seeks to explore the wealth of wisdom of the body. My name is Avni Trivedi, and I'm your host, as well as an osteopath, doula, and movement teacher. In this podcast, I speak to experts about all sorts of topics to do with the body, such as touch, trauma, body confidence, gratitude, birth, movement, relaxation, and baby development. My wish is that you learn how to connect with, listen to, and respect your body. Today's episode is with Françoise Freedman. Françoise is the founder of Birthlight, a charity that uses yoga foundations to enhance well-being for pregnancy, birth and beyond in the lives of women and new families. She's an expert and innovator in the areas of prenatal and postnatal yoga, yoga with babies, well-woman yoga, and in aquanatal and aqua yoga for women's health. She organises regular research conferences called Womb to World. Françoise was born and raised in France and did her PhD in social anthropology at Cambridge. Long periods of field work in the Upper Amazon impacted her transition to motherhood and inspired her to use her yoga and swimming skills in creating embodied practices for maternity and early parenting. Over 4 decades, Françoise has continued to interlace her academic and birthlight activities that are inseparable in her life. She's deepened her skills as a yoga therapist to promote women's wellness through the life cycle. As a mother of 4 grown-up children and now a grandmother, caring for her family has been a constant main inspiration. She's still involved with Amazonian indigenous people. Whether directly or indirectly, all her books promote greater respect of their wisdom and the environment that sustains their lives. I'd like to welcome Françoise to the podcast. Hi, Françoise. Lovely to see you.
Oh, hello. Well, I'm very, very happy to be part of your podcast, and we've known each other for a while, so it's a pleasure and honor.
Thank you. I wanted to start by talking about, I first met you at a workshop that you ran at Whittington Hospital, and it was a Birthing Lightly course using yoga for birth. And what I loved was it was a circle of women in a pure form with physiotherapists, midwives, obstetricians. I can't remember any other professions.
Yes.
But it was such a depth of experience and sharing and nurturing without it mattering what people did for their living, or like, how do you create that type of intimate space?
Well, I think the circle does it. It's not something you do, it's something that happens. And there is an element of allowing and creating a presence. So not having, we have an agenda, so to speak, that we are going to work around birth together, and we are going to practice embodied movements and very, very ancient practices drawn from yoga that haven't found their place in the yoga studios. But that are much closer to the ancient traditions, and that are really very, very simple. It's part of group of people creating a circle together, and the circle does it. And in a circle, there is no hierarchy, and everybody is equal. And there is perhaps more respect about who is talking and the quality of listening, because if you're with people in a row, you have people who have to raise their finger, and then the people in front have to turn around if they want to see the person who's asking the question or speaking. Well, in a circle, the words go to the center and then back to the periphery again. So there is a sort of dynamic movement, even in the sound waves, you could say, that from center to periphery and back to center, and that in itself creates a dynamic. So I'm more and more fascinated with how circles work. And I think they need to be used more in our gatherings and in our teaching, because they are also an antidote to being facing computers as we work more online. So I can think of future retreats as getting more importance with the quality of these circles. And as you say, bringing different professions, different ages. My first circles were completely unexpected because I was doing pregnancy classes in the 80s. And then we did some repair work for pelvic floor. And the women brought their mothers and their sisters, and then the mothers brought their friends. And we ended having a multi-generation group, which I had never experienced before. And I was a bit daunted by it, and I wondered how it would work with the younger women. And also with the older women, because I think maybe they would be embarrassed to share their long-term problems and maybe frighten the younger women. And it didn't happen that way at all. There was an incredible solidarity. And there was also, it was not just the repair of pelvic floor that happened, it was the repair of relationships between pregnant women and their mothers. And the pregnant women listened to the older women and got a much more respect and, in a way, sort of empathy for womanhood that they didn't have, because their mothers would not share these experiences in their homes. So I thought it was so interesting, and since then we've always done it like this. I think intergenerational groups are also very important, and we have them in our Well Woman yoga courses and classes now. And it creates a bit of a headache for the teachers at first, because of course it's very mixed needs, because the older women have additional physical needs, but it works. And I've just been reading some coursework from people who've done the Well Woman yoga course, and were really frightened to get started with these different ages. And the outcomes have been an eye-opener. And we are going to start posting some, with the permission of everyone, of course, some testimonies about the teachers' fears to start with, and then how they got into this dynamic of the circle.
Because in society, we don't really have enough examples of intergenerational living, do we? So it's not a surprise that it's daunting. Like with, say, NCT classes or other pregnancy groups, often it's women that the only thing they really have in common is they live in the same area and they have babies, although they're pregnant at the same stage. But it's beyond that. Like, society has far more richness when you can learn from people of different stages of life.
Yeah, I think it's a real lacuna in our society. And I think if I hadn't been living in the Amazon for 2 years, I would have missed it. But I also tried to introduce, in baby swimming, we tried to introduce mixed age groups with older children holding the babies rather than parents. And actually it works better with the babies. Even the parents are like, he's going to drop the baby, going to drown this baby. But it doesn't happen. Children are very responsible with babies.
Do you find that the babies are somehow more motivated? Because I notice with clients that have babies and then older children, the babies are often in a hurry to develop because they're following their siblings.
Yeah, they learn by imitation. So, of course, they have a much richer input of movements and verbal expressions and yeah, all sorts of experience of the world that is mirrored through their sibling. I see this because we are actually an intergenerational household, not for long, because until the end of this month. So my second granddaughter, Alba, was born here at home in May, and my daughter Mary and her partner Patrick and their elder daughter, who was also born at home, are sharing our house, which happens to be large enough for all of us. And so I've been following Alba and her sister Rosie, who's 4.5, through the development, and I've learned more than in years of teaching baby yoga, just watching this interaction, thinking differently as well, because as you get older, you see different things as well. It's more refined, maybe the observation is more refined. So all the knowledge of the recent research on baby development is filtering through this observation. So I don't know what I'll do with it, but it's been great fun. And I haven't written anything because I just experience at the moment. That's what I've been doing. I thought, I must share this with people during COVID. It would be so enlightening to have a little practice every day or every week even. I haven't done it. I'm completely absorbed by this family dynamics.
How nice just to be able to be present, though.
Yes, exactly.
You mentioned about embodied movement in the classes. What does that mean to you? How do you describe embodied movement?
Well, I've been thinking about this recently. So I would say it's more than mindful. It's like truly experienced through the body. So of course it helps as you get a little knowledge or some insights about anatomy. This would help. But even with an anatomy, with experiential anatomy, just being aware of kinesthetic dynamics in your body, and how small changes, like I've been working a lot recently with isometric practices for strengthening core muscles, because they are very effective and quite effortless. And this, for me, this is a good way to bring a body awareness, an embodied awareness, because as you press with your palms on a wall or on a surface, immediately you're aware of the muscle toning that happens, and then you lift the hands and it goes, and then you press again and it's there again, and then you can use it on your kitchen countertop or on your desk or anything. And it's so taking yoga from the mat to off the mat. I mean, the mat is like a sort of border between yoga experiencing and then living it, putting it into practice through the day. So embodied for me, it's also a mental thing, because you notice how it makes you feel, how this practice makes you feel. So for this isometric press, does it make you feel like you can be stronger, like there is a change that's possible? So it has an impact on your mood, on your mental state. And I mean, I really like mindfulness, but for me there is a sort of mental effort that goes with it, a concentration. That's why also I like effortless. Effortless is beautiful.
It's particularly interesting to hear you talk about embodiment when you have such a strong background as an academic, and academia is not really renowned for being conscious in an embodied or sensory way. So I'd love to explore what that's been like for you.
Well, it's been schizophrenic, frankly. because I cannot merge. I've been trying for decades to merge the two. And the closest I've been to this was to try to write articles on what nurture, on the nurture of small children in the Amazon, and how the nurture of plants and babies are considered to be the same by the women, and they also nurture pets. So they will suckle a baby monkey or a baby dog, puppy, to actually make it more embodied. It's they share their milk. The women share their milk with their baby pets to make them more like children, to make them closer. And the plants are nurtured with songs, with sometimes with tobacco, sometimes with stones that are special magic stones that are placed next to them. I mean, there are so many techniques in a way for this nurture, but it's the root of all the nurturing is in the woman's self. And as she nurtures others, she also nurtures herself. And the women do that also collectively through the dances and the rituals. And then when it goes wrong, you go to the shaman, who's a loner, living on the edge. And then the shaman fixes you. But otherwise, it's all done in the domestic sphere, in the group. And yeah, so that's as close as I've been to embodiment. And there has been a surge of interest in the body, in medical anthropology in the 90s. And I've been, in a way, part of that. But the writings on the body were still very detached, very intellectual, and very far, in my view, from the way in which the people live this embodiment in other cultures. And I've also been interested in how we don't live embodiment. And there is a particular medical anthropologist whom I admire very much called Anne-Marie Moll, who's been following atherosclerotic patients in Holland. And now recently she's done a study on diabetic patients. And she's looking at how the different professions the different professionals who follow these patients think about their patients' bodies. And that's fascinating. So maybe I've not been imaginative enough about translating my interest in embodiment in the lack of. That's another possibility. My main preoccupation has been with helping people to be more embodied and to translate practices so that you can do it in a simple way. And I've had loads of psychotherapy and a bit of psychoanalysis as well after my mother died, and I kept injuring myself. It was just not doing anything for me. The verbal therapies really were complete dead end. And that took me to even a deeper interest in Van der Kolk. And, the body holds the score for me. It's totally right. The body really holds the score.
Such a wonderful book.
So finding the roots of our psychic evolution as well in the body, that's something that interests me a lot, but I'm not versed enough in psychotherapy. I'm just doing it from daily experience, and then through yoga if people want to explore that route.
And I'm curious to know about the difference of embodiment on land, like through yoga or daily movement, and then in the water.
Good question. Well, I absolutely love both, and they work differently for different people. I would say they're completely complementary. and the water wraps you. The water is like another mother. It's like a matrix. It's like also a filter for your movement, so that it mediates your experience, and it responds as well. The water is not passive. When you move in water, there are wave patterns that feed back to you, and pressure, the hydrostatic pressure is really important. So we play with all this in the yoga in water to bring a different realm of experience for well, I teach mostly women, but it could be equally valid for men. And it is. When we do aqua yoga with men, they report the same effects. So yoga on land, you're really working with gravity, and your dialogue is with gravity in yoga on land, and you have the ground. In aqua yoga, your grounding is through the navel. So particularly we try to encourage people to take their feet off the pool floor as much as possible. And we work a lot with rotation and floating practices, or standing, but standing supported. Ideally, if the pool is deep enough, supported with floating heads, but without the feet on the pool floor. And then you experience your grounding in your navel. So this is like pure experience of your hara or tantien. You're really at one with your orientation through your center, life center. So that's really interesting, because the stretches are different. They are freer, and they are more holistic, I would say, so that the relation between core and extremities is experienced in a different way from the way it is on land. It's freer, and you can do diagonal stretch, you can do frontal stretches, you can do lateral stretches, you can do back bends in a quite different way, and one can morph into the other in a way that you can't achieve on land. On land, you have to go from one pose to another pose to another pose. In water, you blend, and it's more like a dance. Once you know the movements, you let your body lead you through them, and usually you find what you need. So you can have, for example, locust pose in the water. When you're pregnant, it's possible. All the prone poses are possible when you're pregnant, and they are so pleasurable for the pregnant women. And also older people can do back bends in the water with supports, sort of foam noodles under their backs. So you don't have the fear of crashing or injuring your spine, because you go to your own limitation. You in a way you're not going to push yourself through limits that you may have on land, and you may say, no, I want to do this. So there is less willpower, and I go back to this effortless notion, because effortless is great. It's a way to make friends with your body, with yourself, and accept yourself, and enjoy the dynamics of your body.
That relates so much to a lot of the way with osteopathy, when you're looking at the umbilicus and, like, say, treating a baby and looking at the tension through the umbilical area, and how there can be strain patterns that are going into different directions. And also with people as they get older, the lack of fluidity, like really trying to reconnect with the sense of the fluidity in the body, helps to find ease or find a release from tension. So that makes so much sense. It's so nice to hear it from an embodied point of view.
Yes, we had an osteopath in our last year's Well Woman Aqua Yoga retreat, and she made similar comments. It was a revelation for her to find this in water. The correspondence between the fluidity that you work with as osteopath and then the external fluidity that encourages an inner fluidity when you're moving in water, doing yoga movements, because it's not any movements. If you swim, it's not necessarily going to happen. And spend a lot of time helping people to streamline their swimming strokes. As a former swimmer, I'm really keen for, again, ergonomical movements in water. And I suffer when I go to a pool and I see people struggling doing breaststroke the wrong way or doing crawl in a painful way. I want to go to them and say, hey, just move your arm this way and then everything changes. Or you don't need to kick. Look, you can just stretch.
That makes so much sense when, like, so many things you've talked about have had that effortless quality. And I often, I do an impression of you with clients when I say, oh, there was a teacher I once studied with, and she would talk about butter buttocks. Oh, yeah. And her and it makes so much sense, because even just that phrase, you naturally just let go of whatever you're clenching and you don't need to be holding.
Yeah. Well, these phrases came to me when I suppose when I was having babies, and it's sort of, I was very close to the domestic sphere and sort of, yeah, buttocks, yeah.
I know from your history that you were initiated by a local shaman when you were doing your field work, and I'd love to hear about that experience.
Well, again, that's something I have not felt able to write about in my academic writing. I mean, no one knows the ins and outs of that. And it's because I cannot go into this without going into a very irrational area of perceiving the world, that as an anthropologist I would have to look at from an external perspective. And I have internalized it. I have gone into it. So I am friendly with quite a few anthropologists who have had similar experiences, and we discuss. We have a little network, and it's very interesting to compare. And some of us have left academia completely because they found this sort of breach too challenging, and also they were no longer interested in describing it from outside. And I'm kind of stubborn, and also perseverance is something I've always had. So I don't give up. I think that there has to be a way, but I haven't found it yet. Although in my career, it's become much easier to talk about psychedelics. Psychedelics. If you can speak of sacred plants as psychedelics, which in itself is a problem for me, but if you talk about plants that have psychotropic effects, which all American shamans, South American, Central American shamans use, that's the gateway to the world outside your normal experience is ingesting plants, including tobacco juice or tobacco smoke, but ayahuasca is now very well known. Some people use it therapeutically. I think it's been used in Vancouver in trials, and it's been used in London as well. So it's no longer so taboo as it was when I started. You cannot admit as an anthropologist that you had taken it. It would have been impossible. I would have discredited my whole department by admitting to this. But now it's possible. But then being initiated is another ball game, is another a step further, and it's admitting that you have taken a commitment, which was also an embodied commitment, to see the world in a different way, and that you have accepted the premise that it's possible to act on the world from this perspective in a way that doesn't make sense to science as yet, or even to any rational thinking. So my initiation actually was quite typical of me and my life. I didn't take it very seriously, and I thought, okay, I'll go ahead as an experiment. I will do this as an anthropologist. I will go through this initiation, which was proposed to me because all the daughters of this woman had gone to become domestic servants in cities. She had 9 daughters, and so none of them stayed. And she said, "I hate you, absolutely hate you. I hate everything about you, what you represent. But you've come to me, and I have to teach you, and I have to take you through this, because you will. I've had a vision that you will take my knowledge to your people, and this is what matters to me. That's my reason for initiating you." And I was used to her frank way of talking, so I was not at all upset. It was that. So I went through this initiation, which consisted on her regurgitating some very thick phlegm, which shamans learn how to do. And that phlegm is supposed to carry, to contain the sort of physical counterpart of the person's knowledge. And then she made me drink lots of tobacco juice, and I was quite out of it. And then she fed me like you would. She passed me from mouth to mouth this very thick phlegm, and I could feel it sitting in my stomach. And at that time, I had a daunting realization that I had taken on board something bigger than I anticipated, and that I could not do this as an experiment. It dawned on me that I had this thing in my body, in myself, and I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to before. There was a before and an after, and I was in the after, and I was definitely in that after, whatever would happen. And I couldn't sleep for 2 nights, and I thought, oh, what have I done now? and she was watching me, and clearly knowing what I was going through, and laughing, and it was a little bit perturbing. And then she says, "Well, now you're it." And she says, "Well, it's like the football game, right? You're in the football pitch, and you've got to play the ball. You cannot get out. Sometimes in Peru, the football pitches are like sunk in, and you have to climb ladders to get out." Or anyway, that's the image that she had. And I had to play the game. I couldn't get out. And it was so true. And since then I've been, and she said, "Oh, don't try to get out, because bad things will happen." And I thought, yeah, another of those. So true to myself, I tried to get out several times. When I realized that I was starting to do her work, particularly when I started attending birth back in England, a friend's birth, I realized that she was there with me. She was holding my hand sometimes. She was showing me images. She was guiding me. And I thought, go away. I don't want this. I don't want to do this. And then I would, it's true, I would have little accidents. Things would happen. And I kept trying just to test it. And sure enough, every time I tried to stop doing this work, things went wrong for me. So I respect. I've tested everything she taught me, and so far I haven't found anything that was not right.
I'm just thinking of how in recent, especially this year, there's been an uprising in talking about cultural appropriation, especially in yoga and in alternative therapies, where a lot of knowledge is indigenous knowledge, or
Yeah.
And when you've been initiated, there's a different level of lineage or respect compared to.
Well, I would say that you've earned your stripes. You haven't gone, it's like what we do in anthropology. We go and we have so-called informants, and we tape them, we record what they say, we take notes, and that's appropriation. But I mean, I've just told you about this moment of initiation, which was a key moment. But around that key moment, both before and after, there've been months of study. And when I use the word study, that's what it corresponds to swadhyaya, exactly swadhyaya in yoga. It's like, okay, you want to work with a plant? Oh, well, you need to spend hours observing this plant. And then she would test me about what the leaves were like from under, from above, the young leaves, the old leaves, the leaves at the bottom of the tree, the leaves higher, whether there were similar plants around, what was around, what happened, how did the plant react to me observing it. I had to think quite hard about that one, because I've never thought about a plant reacting to my observation. That was a new concept. But then I realized, it was true. The plant reacted to my observation. It changed. Something changed. There was a different energy around this plant just because I was there observing it. And then I learned to be less obtrusive as well. So she taught me that, to be less obtrusive. And then I learned which plants were friends with each other, which ones were enemies, how they reacted to the approach of an animal, all sorts of things. So that takes months. And then you have to take the plant, you have to ingest the plant. So that may mean taking the root, taking the sap, taking a decoction, taking it in different form, fumigating, and then observing how you respond, all the reactions, and dreaming. It's all taught to you in dreams as well. So at the beginning, I didn't get it. And then she said, well, you've got to tune in with your dreams. You're just quite hopeless, really. And she was a very stern teacher. And learning the dreaming took a long time. I mean, it started right at the beginning of my field work when my grandmother died, and I received a letter and I cried, and they said, "You're stupid, just dream your grandmother." And I said, well, what do you mean? How do I dream my grandmother? And then they taught me that. So dreaming the plants came later. And then when you've finished your dreaming, when you've finished your study, you really know the damn plant. It's your friend. It's like that pet that women breastfeed. You have you can connect with. You have a connection with that plant. It teaches you all sorts of things, and I did lose a bit of this connection with plants, but I would like to get back to it more now, if I can make a bit more time in my life. And it's very funny. They say, oh, these plants are very jealous. If you mess up your connection, bang, they turn their back on you. And that's so true. So in a way, these are all the kind of things that maybe I can start writing about in anthropology, but it's going to take some bit more time as I watch other people getting near that. There is the anthropology of the other than human, more than human. So it's like a current trend, academic trend. I think many people, again, they write about the other and the beyond the human. They have a little experience, but it was a complete luxury to have this depth of time doing fieldwork. And I was with my little daughter part of the time, and they looked after her. They facilitated my learning. Somehow this group knew that it was important for me to do this. And as hopeless as I was as a student, I mean, they really laughed a lot at my ineptitude. Really, I was the butt of lots of jokes.
And what was that like? Because you were told that you were pregnant by one of the women, weren't you?
Yeah, just a woman I met on the path. I have never seen this woman again afterwards. I don't know where she came from. It was a really strange experience. So I was with an interpreter guide, and I was walking somewhere because I started doing surveys, settlement surveys, and in the past, like when you meet somebody. So she stopped, and we stopped, and she just abruptly said to me through the guide, because I didn't yet speak the language, and she said, "You're pregnant." And also, I just laughed because I left England and I was on the pill. So how could I get pregnant on the pill? Sorry. But it did happen, and you can get pregnant on the pill, I heard afterwards.
And how many weeks would you have been at that time?
Well, I thought, oh, it's the change of weather, because it was winter in Europe and moving to the tropics. So I didn't have any symptoms. So I just thought, well, I've missed a period, because I stopped taking the pill as well. Just after I arrived in Peru, I thought I don't need to be on the pill. So yeah, strange things happen.
And what would you say were the most kind of important experiences of pregnancy and motherhood in the Amazon that you share with the women that come and take your courses and train with you?
Well, I think that takes us back to the circle. And it was not actually a circle. Well, there were circles, but we always went as a collective. Actually, women, there are places where you don't go on your own, except you can go with your lover or with your husband to the river, because that's where you have sex. Near the river, people don't like having sex indoors in the houses, because we sleep in platform beds and sleep with the children, with the babies. The older children have their own platform beds, boys on one side and girls on the other side. So the river is a very dangerous place. It's a sexual place. It's a place where you can, if you're pregnant or if you're menstruating, you can have spirit encounters near the river. So we went to wash clothes as groups, and it was my relaxing time of day. I had done my anthropology during the day mostly, and wherever I found myself to be, because people move a lot, I mean, I didn't stay in the same place all the time, and wherever I was in that circle of women who went to wash clothes, wash babies, bathe, because Amazonian people bathe every day. They're very clean. And we after bathing and we used to groom. So that meant taking lice of each other, and I was very happy when I was accepted as taking lice of other people, of other women's hair, and you bite the louse strong, so that you kill it by biting it. So the white people call the Indians lice eater as an insult. So I learned to do that, and then so that was steps towards intimacy with the women. And then they started talking. It was a place to talk about sex, to talk about femininity, to talk about how you keep your man, to talk about lots of things. I learned so much about sex that I didn't know. And then they started. One day they said, the group that I was more familiar with said, okay, we're going to look after you now. You know, you're getting more pregnant now. There are things you need to know. And they started, just massaging me, palpating, and preparing my nipples for breastfeeding, which was quite tough to start with, but that's the best thing I've ever done. And also there are little insects that goes into your nipples, so you had to take that off, and that created lots of opportunities for jokes. And then comparing pubic hair, because Amerindian women don't have pubic hair, so my pubic hair was an endless source of entertainment. And it is just intimate thing, very, very intimate. But yeah, I had to eat special foods. I had to do special things. I had to watch for special things. And I learned to be pregnant their way, which is, and the men as well. So they told you have to, I didn't use the phone at the time, or I only told my husband I was pregnant by telegram. And then we met later, but then he came to see me, and the jokes were with him, with the men, and it was also all the masculine side of things, because they do covad, so it's the man and the women, the men and the women feed the baby to create the soul together. The body happens, but you have to create the soul, and creating the soul was their concern. It was their interest, and it was what they wanted me to learn, to nurture that soul, so that it would be a strong soul.
So beautiful. And over the last few months of going back to work after lockdown, I've spoken to so many clients who've just been on their own. You know, they've own in labour, or their own in antenatal appointments, or recovery after birth, or just the first few months of their baby's life. So to hear of that sense of togetherness and intimacy just sounds so necessary.
And there is a lot of sex during pregnancy, because they feel the baby has to be nurtured by sperm all the time. So they give the intimacy of the couple a lot of importance.
And do they then give the importance to the couple post-birth as well?
Post-birth, it's the covad post-birth is more stringent than before birth. So the men cannot do anything violent. They cannot use an axe, or they cannot hunt. They cannot cut anything. They have to stay in the hammock. The men have to be really passive after birth, so that they don't endanger this new soul. And the women are looked after by the other women to start with. I mean, the couple is together. They are together in the hammocks, close, or in bed, but and there is a postpartum sexual taboo, so the sex happens before, not after. And the baby is really cocooned. And there are some plants as well, so the women do like kind of fumigations and herbal treatments, herbal baths. The baby's first bath is a herbal bath, and it's prophylactic kind of bath. And then there are little rituals, like you have to, for girls and boys, and you put little bracelets with symbols that are taken from the forest, so different for boys and girls, and that connect you to the spiritual energy, which is gendered, of the forest. So the girls might have little shells and little seeds that have feminine forms, and the boys have like bits of iguana or bits of different animals. But they don't have strong things like they will have later in their adolescent initiation. The boys will have teeth and the girls will have beads. So that's not yet. It's all very specific to this little baby age group. And then I think one of the most emotional moments, two emotional moments, were when I was the father, the sort of male leader of the group of women that I ended spending more time with as my pregnancy moved towards the due date. Gave me very ceremonially a deer skin that he had killed. He had killed that deer, and normally they don't eat deer. It's a taboo meat because the deer is an animal that takes the souls of the ancestors. So they don't eat deer. Many Amazonian people have a taboo on deer meat, but they kill deer to get the skin because that creates a seed for the babies. A bit like the tiger skin for the yoga tradition. It's like a sort of a boundary between earth and the spirit world. So your baby will be placed on that deer skin. So I still have my deer skin. I put all my babies on it. And the way it was done, it was like typical Amazonian way, no fuss, just, okay, here it is, and the injunction was, okay, this is for your life. This is for your life as a mother. So all your children, you're given this, presented with this for life. So that was a very beautiful moment. And then another man, a younger man, so like my brother-in-law kind, he wove a baby cloth for me to carry. So again, the baby carrier is woven by the man, and it's a special. The cotton is spun by the women, and then it's dyed with a special plant. So there's a slow process, and you need a lot of thread to make a baby carrier. And your baby carrier is like the baby's world for the first month, and it becomes a hammock. So it's a rectangular piece of cloth that then you can make a knot at the end and you hang it between things. So that's the cradle. And then you can also carry it. So I also have my baby carrier. I used other kinds of baby carriers, maybe a bit lighter, because this one was, I mean, I would say it's not the most comfortable kind of carrier, but you learn to use it. It's the Amazonian babies learn to cling to the mother much more than the Western babies. And that's also something that has interested me for the baby yoga, is to give the babies that maybe a greater ability to hold on, to cling.
And I remember you talking once about rituals for the men. So when the woman is in labour, there was something like almost like a mirror process happening for the dad as well.
Yeah, they are the ones in pain. The women are quite silent and they get on with it in the corner. The group that I worked with don't have birthing huts, but they they probably had a long time ago, but they give birth in their forest house, not in their main house. They all have probably 3 houses. So a main house, then a secondary house near the gardens in the forest, and then a hut that later will become, because they follow frontier cycle. So their colonizing hut will become a house later. But that's too near, that's too raw, that's dangerous, that's in a sort of it's not tame. And the spirits are too present. It's very dangerous to giving birth there is risky. So the garden house is perfect place for giving birth. And that's where they go. That's where they prefer giving birth there, which makes difficulties with the new system of having to give birth in hospital, because sometimes these garden houses are quite far away. And yes, so the men are with a group of men, and they're usually their peers, and they drink a lot of manure beer, and they make a big theater of being in labor. The man is in labor, and he's talked to and is encouraged by the other men. It's happening less now because it has been mocked by colonists, by sort of the people who've moved into the area, and it's like, I don't know if it probably still happens in sort of more remote areas, but it's less common than it was when I did my field work. But then it was, and they were starting to joke in that way with my husband when he came. So I was maybe 6 months pregnant, 7 months. 6-7 months, and then we decided I would go back to give birth in England. So I left. I was quite slim, so nobody challenged me when I was at the airport. Okay, but I was quite. Fortunately, I was 3 weeks late. Otherwise, I would have been in a complete shock. So I got back like 2 weeks before giving birth officially to
wow.
Yeah.
And I wanted to read the mission of Birthlight, offering the best of tradition with the best of innovation to nurture new life. And I'm curious to know, these days, what do you consider to be the best of innovation for new life?
Well, the best of innovation for me is to go to help people finding embodiment, both before birth and after birth, because this is what we lack most. We don't know how to stand. We don't know how to sit. We don't know how to walk. We don't know how to hold our babies, our newborns, in a way that makes sense to them. And to me, these innovations are, in a way, they're not innovations at all. They are like so simple, but it's the translation into our lives that requires some kind of innovation, because we have to think of how to present this in a way that makes sense to pregnant women and new mothers, and that is acceptable. So when I see the new yoga for pregnancy in yoga studios, I think, it's all fine. You adapt yoga to the pregnant bodies, but are you helping the woman to be more at ease in her pregnant body? Are you helping her to be at home in this pregnant body? And then same thing with the postnatal yoga or baby massage or baby yoga. What are we are not teaching techniques for the baby or for the mother. It really, they are techniques to connect. They are connection techniques. And this is where the innovation is. And if, I think some of my anthropologist colleagues may wonder why I spend all my time or most of my time doing things that look like nothing, which they are. But actually they are really important because they make all the difference between a sort of enjoyable pregnancy where the woman walks into labor feeling confident, feeling grounded, feeling at ease with the process, or not. And then with the babies, are you going to be able to read this baby, to observe this baby? I think if I think about what I learned in the Amazon, is I learned observation, because all indigenous people are very keen observers, and they look upon us Westerners as scatty, sort of completely not able to pick up details about all sorts of things. And I think they're really keen observers. They have to observe a hunter. You can't go hunting if you have not observed the animals with, blowgun or a spear. You need to know so much. So I think observation, we need to learn to observe babies. We need to learn to observe how our bodies change when we're pregnant, how fetuses move inside, how they make us feel, so there's a whole process here that requires innovation, because it's a process of translation. So it's not innovation per se, but there's a translation there, a cultural translation, and that fascinates me as an anthropologist. I'm not very good at writing about it, but cultural translation, not on paper, but in gestures and in behavior. And that's, I hope I can do this in my last years, sort of finding a way to report about this cultural translation. And I'm fascinated by people like Feldenkrais or Ida Rolf, people like that who manage to not just do it, but also explain. And I think I've had a real block as an anthropologist to have this split between cultural experiencing and then finding a way to teach, but keeping the anthropology as a separate line. And that's been nearly painful, and I need to find a way.
It sounds as if the effortlessness that you were talking about could be something you could take on for yourself as well.
Yes. I don't have an effortless way of doing that. I haven't found it. I don't know. Talking with you has felt very maybe a step forward to effortlessness.
Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Avni, to talk with you, because your quality of listening is amazing, and that made me share things that I haven't shared before. So that's kind of, again, that helps me forward. And effortlessness, I would say, comes sometimes through a long loop of effort, and you've got to go to it's a bit like studying the plants. You go to the end of the effort, and then boom, it sort of happens. So yeah, hopefully this interview will be the source of something, and I'm very, very grateful to you.
That's so kind. Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode. If you've enjoyed it, please send me a comment on Twitter or Instagram @AvniTouch. Subscribe to Speak from the Body on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Go to avni-touch.com/podcast to get the show notes. And finally, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.